All right, today we are popping the hood on generative AI. We're going to show you exactly how to take the wheel and get the results you actually want. It's time to stop being a passenger and really start piloting this thing.
You know the feeling, right? You ask for a really simple summary, and what you get back is a philosophical poem. Or you need a hard fact, and it just starts making things up. Yeah, we've all been there. It can totally feel like the AI is just guessing, giving you stuff that's all over the place or sometimes just flat out wrong.
But here's the thing, you actually have way more control than you think. You can fine-tune how your AI behaves with just a few little adjustments. So it's time to stop just taking what it gives you and start telling it what you want.
Okay, let's really get into it. The best way to think about this is that every AI has what I like to call a creative engine running under the hood. And, just like any engine, it's got a control panel. Today, we're going to figure out what every single one of those dials and knobs does so you can get way closer to the output you're looking for.
First up, we've got the single most important dial on the entire panel. It's called temperature. And this is your main control for how creative or how random the AI is going to be.
So what exactly is it? Well, temperature is just a setting that goes from 0 all the way up to 1. Think of it like a slider. When you pull it way down, the AI gets super focused and predictable. But when you push it up higher, that's when things get creative and, honestly, a little wild. And this chart here, it just lays out that trade-off perfectly. See, at a low temperature, your results are focused, they're consistent, and they stick to the facts. That's your safe bet. But crank that temperature up high, and you get all this creativity and variety, but it comes with a bit more unpredictability, a little more risk. And listen, neither one is better than the other. It just completely depends on what you're trying to do.
So here's how that looks in the real world. For something that has to be 100% correct, like a math problem, you'd slam that temperature right down to 0. For something like creative writing or just brainstorming some ideas, a setting around 0.7 is usually the sweet spot. And I don't know, if you want to write some really experimental poetry, crank it all the way up to 0.9 and just see what happens.
All right, let's move on to our next control. Now, this one's a lot more straightforward, but it is just as important. We're talking about setting some boundaries with output length.
This setting does pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It controls the maximum length of the AI's response. It's like a leash that keeps it from just rambling on and on forever. Or you could think of it like a fuel gauge that tells the AI how far it's allowed to go before it has to stop.
Now, one really crucial thing to remember is that, yeah, you can set this limit super high, but longer responses use up more computing power, and that can end up costing you more. The real trick is to find a limit that's just right for what you need. You know, long enough to get a complete answer, but not so long that you're just being inefficient.
Okay, let's get a little more advanced now. We're going to move on to a pair of controls that are kind of related, and I like to call them the focus knobs. We're talking about top K and top P. What these two do is they help narrow down the AI's options for the very next word it's going to spit out. Top K is really simple. It just tells the AI to only consider the K most likely next words. So if you set top K to 30, it's only choosing from the 30 most probable options. Top P, on the other hand, is a little more dynamic. It basically creates a pool of the most likely words that add up to a certain probability, let's say 95%, and then it just chooses from inside that pool. It's a much more flexible way to filter out the really weird, unlikely choices.
Now, here's the key. You don't use these settings by themselves. Top K and top P work with temperature. The best way to think about them is as guardrails. They stop the randomness from temperature from sending the AI completely off the rails. They help make sure all that creativity actually stays on topic.
So now that we kind of get what all the controls do, let's put it all together. To help you get started, here are 3 essential recipes, or you can think of them as presets that you can use for your first drive.
Let's take a look. If you need something factual and safe, you'll use the conservative profile. See how low the temperature is? And the guardrails are tight. Notice that low top K value? It's only picking from 20 words. For a good mix of consistency and some new ideas, that balanced profile is just about perfect. And then, when you want the AI to really come up with something brand new, you switch it over to the creative profile. See the high temperature and that wider top K? That allows for some much more surprising word choices.
Seriously, think of these like the driving modes in your car: eco, normal, and sport. Instead of starting from scratch and trying to guess the settings every single time, just pick the profile that best fits your project. Then, if you need to, you can tweak it from there. It is by far the fastest way to get great results.
And that's basically it. Once you understand how to balance the creativity you get from temperature with the guardrails you get from top K and top P, you're not just a passenger anymore. You now have the keys to the control panel. You're ready to drive.
So, I guess the only question left is, now that you have control over one of the most powerful creative engines ever built, what are you going to create?